Welcome back into another episode of the Believe in Georgia Tech podcast. We're your co-hosts. That's RJ Schafer. I'm Jackson Caudell, and it's not just me in the car this time. It's RJ is in the car too. We're both coming to you a few hours after Georgia Tech beat Gardner-Webb 59-12. Going to break that down real quick, give some takeaways. Obviously, we're going to talk about Aaron Philo starting today, Haynes King not playing. Before we do that, guys, if you're watching, haven't subscribed, would love it if you could. Like the video, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review. We're inching closer and closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers. Can't thank you enough for all the love and support you guys have shown us each and every episode. It means a lot to us. So, all right, with that, we'll kind of just dive right in. And obviously, just with both of us in the car, I'm sure the audio is not going to be great. I apologize. I know sometimes my audio, especially, is not great, and I apologize for that. So, if there's anything we miss in these instant reactions, like we always say, we'll come back and discuss it next week. Because we're just going right off the cuff of just everything that just happened. So, I guess we'll get into it with Haynes King not playing today, lower body injury. It apparently had been nagging him all week. They said there was no mention of anything with the shoulder, which is, of course, what he had last week. It was a lower body injury. Aaron Philo started today. Kind of what was your reaction when you heard that? I guess there was obviously a little bit of surprise, I'm sure.
I mean, it was really shocking to me because, especially when that came out, uh, King was dealing with the shoulder in week one, and you would think, if there were him to be held out by injury, it would be the shoulder, but a lower body injury, hopefully that doesn't keep him out for very long. I mean, he was out practicing before the game. He looked okay. I think it was just, abundance of caution, and honestly, in retrospect, I'm fine with that. Just keeping your main man healthy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And like, no disrespect to Gardner-Webb here, but like, obviously, Aaron Philo can start and play in this game. Aaron Philo can start playing a lot of games and win, but he obviously was capable of doing this. Um, so going to the start of the game, it literally felt like deja vu. The only difference was Gardner Webb got the ball first. Colorado didn't get the ball first last week, and Georgia Tech forces a punt. They take over. Philo takes a deep shot to Eric Rivers. He had him. We'll get into one of his worst throws later, but it overshot him a little bit. And I'm not like saying it was a terrible throw. He just overshot him a little bit, was off target. And then he got pressured and fumbled. Gardner Webb gets it again, just like last week. And then they turn that into a touchdown. Now, Gardner Webb had all kinds of special teams issues today, but they go up 6-0. And look, there was no like panic or anything. It was just kind of like, for me, it was more of like an eye roll. It was like, all right, we're really doing this again. Like, it's like, come on, you got to start faster, because obviously Clemson did not look good in any capacity today, and they have not looked good through 2 weeks of the season, but they're a much more capable team than Colorado or Gardner Webb, so you can't do that. So they go 6 plays, 42 yards for a touchdown, take an early lead. And then Philo throws. It was, to me, it was just, I don't know what your thoughts were. I just thought he forced it a little bit on the
Yeah.
interception. I didn't like the throw. I'm all about QBs being aggressive, especially when you have the kind of talent that Philo does. But I just thought it was a bad decision.
Yeah, and to be honest, that is the type of play in a game like this. Again, I want to give all due respect to Gardner-Webb. They started off the game with the lead, and that's big for them. But this is the type of game where I would like to see Aaron Philo take these kinds of risks. Especially for a guy that's not going to start a ton. Like these are the games where you go out, you know, and see what you can do under pressure. Now, was it a bad decision, a forced decision? Somewhere in there. Yes, but I think, this is the game to do it just so those mistakes don't happen later. And I don't think he was limited under under any circumstance today.
Yeah, and then really from then there on, it was just game on, like for Georgia Tech. So Christian Garrett ends up having 2 sacks on the next drive. I thought he played really well today. Georgia Tech as a whole. Look, I'll preface by saying, because we're gonna get, there was a lot of explosive plays, a lot of yards, and I don't mean to be this guy, but it's like I do have to mention, like, the opponent you're playing does matter. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Gardner Webb is a lower quality opponent than you're going to play the rest of the season. But Christian Garrett, for young, I always like seeing the young players do well, because while yeah, it's different when you have veterans balling out against Gardner-Webb, but for guys that are still just getting their first college experience, I thought was huge. And we'll get into more like Jordan Allen made some plays obviously today. JP Powell had his first career touchdown. Josh Petty, I thought played pretty well. He got out in front on a lot of those screens and did well, which is obviously is encouraging. But Christian Garrett comes back, has 2 sacks. Georgia Tech then goes 4 plays, 53 yards, hits Canyon in the back of the end zone for the first touchdown. Then that the next drive for Gardner-Webb, I thought there was just that terrible roughing the kicker penalty on Georgia Tech. I thought he was shoved into him, and that's just again, I'll have to go back and look at the replay again, but just from my point of view in the press box, it looked like he was shoved into him. But I mean, it's neither here nor there, honestly. Like it really didn't make a difference. But then you had a quick 2 play 61-yard drive for a touchdown. Malachi Hosley, who continues to impress. I've loved what I've seen from him so far. 55-yard touchdown. Gardner-Webb punts. Then it was a 3-play, 94-yard drive. Jamal Haynes, 47-yard touchdown run, and all of a sudden it's 21-6. And it was like you kind of almost forgot about okay, maybe I won't speak for everybody, but like I kind of just the bad start was just kind of out of mind because just the explosive plays were just coming out of clip, and like I seeing Hosley and Jamal Haynes like that could just be such a great duo this year, and we've talked about that before.
Yeah, and that to me, like you just saw Georgia Tech take over the game. Like 4 straight touchdowns, every single drive, besides one was under a minute and a half. Unlimited amount of explosive plays. Whoever it was, Haynes, Hosley, pretty much you could throw anything at the wall and you would make a masterpiece. Is kind of how I felt at that point in the game. Um, Offense, defense, you were explosive all around, and I think again, it's hard to read into a game against an FCS opponent. But, we talked about this a lot. Very good teams beat lower quality teams by a lot, and they handled their business. And I think that's what Georgia Tech did. They had explosive plays, and those type of plays will translate to the next level. And I really like what I saw at Hosley, but most of those drives leading into the half were all pretty encouraging.
Yep. And then I mean that was they get the ball back, go right back down. 7 plays, 36-yard drive. Jamal Haynes scores again, 28-6. That was the score going into the half. Now Georgia Tech comes out in the second half. They have a turnover on downs. They force a Gardner-Webb turnover. Then they go 5 plays, 25 yards. I mean, they had a really short field. Malachi Hosley scores again. It's 35-6. And then, like, I think my favorite sequence in the entire game was on the next drive. So Gardner-Webb actually drove down a little bit and got into field goal range. And Georgia Tech starters were still in. Gardner-Webb has to attempt a field goal. They miss it, but Amari Harvey was called for a offsides penalty, and they're lining up to do it again. And then it was blocked, and then Amari ran it all the way back. Like it was just a really cool sequence. And Brent Key talked about it after the game, just how proud he was of Amari, and like I thought he struggled a little bit in coverage today. I thought there were a couple times where they picked on him just a little. But I thought that was a really cool sequence. And then again, like it was 42-6 at that point. Gardner-Webb did go on a 7-play, 75-yard drive, scored a touchdown. There was a blocked extra point that Will Kiker ran back, and then there was I think they said inadvertent whistle was the explanation given, and it was called back, but the block still stood. It was a strange sequence. I mean, the game was way out of hand at that point, but then Gardner-Webb punt, Georgia Tech drives down, JP Powell gets a touchdown. And also, I cannot wait tomorrow to see the PFF grade on Pro Football Focus for, I'm sure most people know, but the PFF grade on Graham Knowles tomorrow. Came in, threw one pass on the screen to Dean Patterson, and he ran it in. I'm sure he's going to have like a 98 grade tomorrow in like the just few snaps he plays. But yeah, Georgia Tech wins 59-12. Just get into some, I guess, just the stats here. 680 total yards, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought I read, or I was told that was like the third largest ever in a game for Georgia Tech. I know that's bad, I guess, journalism on my part if that's wrong, but like that's impressive. 457 yards through the air. Philo 21-28, 373 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Graham Knowles 1 of 1, 84 yards and a touchdown. Just love to see it. Malachi Hosley with his first 100-yard game as a Yellow Jacket, and that's really cool because while he played at Penn, Malachi is from Georgia. Like he grew up in Georgia, and he said his grandma was in the stands. He had family there. That was really cool for him. Jamal was really efficient. 9 carries, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. They carried they there wasn't as much running as last week. I mean, there was you're going to play a little differently when you have Philo in there. Like it's just with the throwing. Loved Malik Rutherford coming back. 5 catches, 62 yards. Dean Patterson, 3 catches, 87. Zion Taylor, 3 for 58. Isaiah Canyon, 2 for 53. Jordan Allen, 1 for 78. Did see Brett Seither get a 26-yarder today. And then I do want to highlight before we get out of here, I thought the defense was pretty good today. They held Gardner-Webb to 4.2 yards per play. 6 sacks, 14 tackles for loss. I always harp on creating havoc and like that being the marker of a really successful team. And I'm Captain Obvious here. Like, of course that's true, but sometimes Georgia Tech hasn't always done that. But you had a Montre Bradford get a couple sacks today. You had Christian Garrett. Akilo Stone had one. The it was just a really well-rounded performance today. Again, there were some times I thought they had some success through the air, but I mean Gardner-Webb carried the ball 47 times for 117 yards. I mean that's 2.5 yards a clip. Um, yeah, I mean I guess what stood out to you? I mean I just kind of threw a lot out there. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that, I feel like I have to do my due diligence to talk about. Um, Akilo Stone looked absolutely great. I think he had it was 2 sacks in a row, right? It was 2 consecutive plays to end the drive.
now I know Christian Garrett. I think that was Christian Garrett.
Okay. Well, Akilo Stone still had 2 sacks on the day. Aiden Burr, perfect on extra points throughout the
Yep.
day. And maybe this was just Gardner-Webb's special teams is just really bad, but Georgia Tech's special teams looked incredible in this game. Blocking a ton of kicks, being everywhere. Punts was good. The one singular punt that you had was good. And Aiden Burr was perfect. So, a lot to love uh, heading out of this game. And I think besides the beginning of the game, I did start to worry a little bit. I am one of those people. I was on the worry train, um, when Gardner-Webb went up 6-0, but no reason to worry. Aaron Philo, I think the passing offense has, a very, very high ceiling when Philo is in the game, and I think we saw that today. Um, and maybe I'm just throwing this out there as my, last big thing. Maybe you put King and Philo in there, in the same game, because I think, the Georgia Tech offense could be really electric with the two quarterback system, two very, very, very good ACC quarterbacks. Just throwing that out there in the world.
Yeah, I mean we'll get into more of that next week. It's on instant. I don't know that an instant reaction pod's necessarily the place to go deep into that discussion. We have no idea if King is going to play next week. Obviously, we all know who's on deck next week. Clemson comes to Atlanta, and I know Clemson's looked awful to start the season. They're going to bring their A game, I'm sure, and it is still very much a big game. And I expect Clemson will take a tumble out of the top 10 after I know they beat Troy, but I mean they were down 16-0 at one point. Like I was legitimately thinking that Troy had a chance to win that game. But Clemson is obviously still a very talented team. They've I mean over the past decade it's you got to envy what they've been able to do in the ACC, and just all the success that they've had. So we'll see what happens with the QB. I'm not going to sit here and speculate too much. We don't know. Philo was awesome today. We know Philo's awesome. We talk about Aaron Philo. I say we talk about him a lot, but I know a lot of times when we do position previews or we talk about him, I think we just gloss over quarterbacks because we're like, yeah, Georgia Tech has awesome quarterbacks. How cool. And we sometimes I don't think we give them the credit that they're due, but for him to step up, make some mistakes early, and I don't know that I want to use the phrase perfect, but I mean he was awesome the rest of the way. I mean again, nearly 400 yards, and you turned it over on the first 2 drives of the game. So just again, I know the opponent, but still, I thought that was pretty impressive. Um, Regardless, so look, 59-12. that's probably outside of the turnovers at the beginning. That was probably as good of a game as you could have asked for against this type of opponent. There was, I know RJ said he had some doubt, but even with the 6-0 at the beginning, there was like Georgia Tech just like took care of business from start to finish. Obviously, they're going to need to bring their best next week. Like it's going to require their best to win next week, and we'll get into more of that later. But any last thoughts on this game?
That's all I got.
All right, man. Well, again, apologies if this audio sucks. Just y'all can yell at me all you want to. I understand. It's recording in cars is not ideal, but really appreciate you guys for listening, following along. 2-0 start. Again, would love it if you guys would subscribe if you hadn't already. Follow us wherever you get your podcast. I won't go through the whole spiel, but gonna hit it right before we go. And we will see you guys next week to preview Clemson. Thank you for tuning in.